And as you're doing that, you might be seeing at this point in time evidence that would be contrary to what you believe. Third time. Good afternoon, everyone. Christian here. Today I have a prophetic word to share with you. Sometimes when God tells me something, and I go out and I move in that belief in what He's spoken to me, I'll get something happens that's the opposite of what I was expecting. And so I'll go to God and be like, hey, what's going on here? Sometimes He corrects me. He's like, well, you misunderstood what I was saying, or you ran this way when I told you to go there and there. And you're like, oh, okay, I see. Now you go do it and you get a different result. But there's other times when you hear from God, you move out there, you get some negative feedback, and you go to God and He doesn't give you new instruction. This is one of those times that we're in right now. What many of us are going through right now is that we have this word from God that we're believing God for. We have confirmation. We have our reason for believing that it is a word from God. And we've gone out and we're standing on that word, or we're trying to walk it out, whatever it is. And as you're doing that, you might be seeing at this point in time evidence that would be contrary to what you believe. Or perhaps you're believing for something and nothing's happening. I mean, it's just nothing. Or perhaps you're seeing something, but it's just very small compared to what you're needing, right? What's happening here is you've heard from God, you've moved in faith, and now you have this resistance. Resistance is important. You have to have it. Until you find resistance, you can't find breakthrough. So it's important, and you will expect to find that. But when you're in that situation and you're going through that resistant time period, sometimes, many times when you're younger, Christian, you tend to be fooled by the resistance and say, okay, well, there's no breakthrough here. There's not a word from God. I'm going to quit and go back the way I came. That's the wrong thing to do here. What the Lord wants me to tell you is that you need to continue to believe. Don't fear, just believe. Remember the story where God told a prophet there's going to be an abundance of rain. So the prophet goes out, tells everybody it's going to be an abundance of rain. He sends his servant to the seaside to go look for the storm that's coming. Servant comes back and tells Elijah there is no storm, no clouds, nothing. Elijah tells him go back, do it again. He does this 7 times. The last time he comes back and says, okay, I see a cloud the size of a man's hand. The main point is that the evidence was stacked against them repeatedly, telling them nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing happened. And the prophet kept telling him, go back, go back. Why did he keep telling them the same thing over and over? Because the word of God hadn't changed, but the evidence would. And eventually we see the cloud comes in. Even though it was small at that time, it wasn't completely to the size that the prophet had spoken, that he had heard from God, it would eventually become the evidence that would support the word from God. Now let's take a look at the story in the New Testament. We have Jesus, he's going around and he's revealing himself to the people, and a man comes up to Jesus and asks him to come back to his home and heal his daughter who is sick. Jesus agrees to it. But of course, before he goes off and heals this man's daughter, someone else comes along, we know the story, and we hear a report that the man's daughter is dead and he should no longer bother Jesus, so the teacher, right? Now this is an interesting case because you have this man who has asked God for something. God has given him a word saying, I'm going to heal your daughter. And he's believing in faith, right? He's walking this out. And then the evidence comes up and says, not going to happen. At that moment in time, he was scared. He was upset. He was confused. He's a father. He loves his kid. There's all this going on. And he was with the Lord. I mean, if the Lord couldn't change that, who are you going to call on? So he's really broken at that point. But Jesus doesn't say, oh man, I missed that one. He doesn't. He says, just believe. If you continue to believe, right? And so when he goes, he finds his daughter and he raises her from the dead or from her sleep. The main point being that the evidence changed to support the word, not the other way around. When you hear a word from God and you know it's from God, you've got confirmation, you've stepped out on it, the evidence that comes against it doesn't mean anything to you. The word is where the power's at.